Hey YouTube, it's your boy Lion Guy Sai, and today's video is kind of special insofar as it will be the last Kageyama video in terms of this book, Fundamentals of Go. It is chapter 11, the last chapter on Endgame, but after this chapter there is technically an appendix which reviews the game between Kageyama and Rin Kaiho, the Meijin at that time. It's a really dense commentary on the game, and it's super insightful. I do recommend you getting the book if you don't have it already, which you should have no excuse for because it's been like over 11 weeks. But please check out that game on your own time. I just don't think it will be really useful to read out loud or to present on the stream. But without further ado, let's get into the finale, the end game, so aptly named at the end of the book. But yeah, here we go. Endgame pointers. We are approaching the end of our book. The subject is the endgame, which has always tended to be left till the end, and then slighted. Endgame strength has been something that one acquired naturally, without any specific study. In view of the part of the endgame plays in deciding the outcome, however, I wonder whether it should really be given such short shift. At least one should learn the values of commonly appearing endgame moves and, what is more important, the value of sente and gote. Diagram 1. Blacks and whites groups are all stabilized in this 5-stone handicap game, and the endgame is about to begin. Thickness and thinness are roughly even, so it's just a question of who has more territory. Black seems to have about 70 points and white about 50. Black is clearly in the lead, but considering the 5-stone handicap, one could say that white has come within reaching distance of him. Perhaps white's greater strength is all there is to it, but might not you too make the same dismal plays as black in the next diagram, never realizing which of them is wrong? Diagram 2. Let's recount the score after the sequence from white 1 to black 38. It's hard to believe, but now black has about 60 points and white 70. Black has lost 30 points and the lead has been reversed. Black's tragedy is that he cannot arouse himself to his own mistakes in the last diagram. Black too may have been unavoidable. If he let white jump in there, he would lose his eye space and the group would become weak. But what was the idea of black 4, 6, 13, and 16? Black was acting as white's servant. Diagram 3. This is how black should play. When white makes diagonal move at 3, black does likewise with 4 in the upper left corner. If white jumps in at 5, black does likewise at 6. Share and share alike. This is how he should play, but when white plays 3, black does not want to give up the territory he has, so carefully surrounded in the upper right. He feels that he cannot afford to let white play 5. He defends. Since he defends, white gets to make the diagonal play at 4. Black. Once the endgame starts, white always keeps sente and I never get a chance to do anything. Is black's complaint the reader's also? Strong players are shifty, the saying goes. Those who would be strong should grasp the way black shifts with 4 and 6 in diagram 3. If white plays 5 at A, black can play B, and have gotten the sente move in the upper left corner as well. Pretty clever of him. Similarly, black had no business answering white 13 and 15 in diagrams 2, 14, and 16. The reason he kept answering white was that he was looking only at the part of the board where white played his last stone. He ought to learn to watch the whole board, and to consider ignoring his opponent's moves, provided the consequences are not too drastic. Diagram 4. Whether white plays 1 in sente or, diagram 5, black plays 1 in sente is no trifling matter in the endgame. The difference between these diagrams amounts to 6 points. If black answers white at 5 such places, he loses 6 times 5 equals 30 points. One may know all this, but the psychology of combat is such that once one thinks one has a lead, one becomes safety conscious and timid. This is how the enemy catches up. One defends and defends, and the next thing one knows, one's lead has vanished, as happened in diagram 2, and happens frequently on the Go boards everywhere. Diagram 6, the upper right corner. Diagram 7, the lower left corner. Thinking of these two positions together, when white plays 1 in diagram 7, black 2 in diagram 6 is correct. White 1 and black 2 are the key points, and black loses both of them to white if he defends against white 1. You go your way and I'll go mine should be his philosophy. Suppose white answered black 2 at A. Black could then answer white 1 in the lower left. White would never be so foolish as to let that happen. Well then, black should realize that to answer white 1 at B would be just as foolish. White 3 does have to be answered at black 4, however. If black ignored white 3, his whole group would be set adrift. After black 6, the points A and B are miai. Defending where necessary is as important as not defending where unnecessary. Diagram 8. A hane and connection like black 1 and 3 are often key points in the endgame. Later, when black hanes at A, white cannot block at B without risking black C and a ko. Usually, he has to give way and answer black A with C, followed by black B, white D, black E, white F. Diagram 9. The same can be said about white 1 and 3. The difference between these two diagrams comes out to be 14 points, which is quite large. The way to calculate such differences is to count the number of points by which the territories become larger or smaller. The amount is 7 points for both black and white. In this case, totally 14. The reason that professionals ignore large-looking places in the center and pick away at the edges of the board is that is where the largest moves tend to be. For example, black 1 in diagram 10 is worth about 12 points. Black 1 in diagram 8 is bigger. Diagrams 8, 9, and 10 all showed moves that were gote for either side, but sente moves come first in the endgame. This may be sad news to those who lust to make capturing plays like black 1 in diagram 10. Diagram 11, 4 points in double sente. The hane and connection on the edge at 1 and 3 are moves that one would like to play even in the middle game. Provided white 4 is large enough to be necessary, black keeps sente. Diagram 12. If white gets to play 1 and 3 first, black cannot omit 4. White keeps sente. Either side, that is, can play in sente, and the difference is about 4 points. Who gets here first is a big question. 4 points may not seem like much, but if you recall that it amounts to roughly the komi in an even game, you may be able to understand why professionals attach such importance to these points. The difficulty is timing. In the middle game, black, or white in diagram 11, is not bound to answer at 2. By the endgame, however, both sides should be scrambling to make the hane. Diagram 13. White 1 and 3, another hane in connection, are gote, but they conceal a further tesuji. Diagram 14. The hidden tesuji is the clamp at white 3. Black 4 at 5 would lead to a disaster, white cutting at 6, so black has to play 4 and 6. White keeps sente. One of the constant questions in the endgame is whether clamping plays like this work out or not. Diagram 15. Here, white A would fail, black B. Diagram 16. In such cases, white should play 1 to 6 in sente. From black's point of view, the descent at 1 is correct, even if gote. If white answers at 2, then black has stopped his hane in connection in sente. If white ignores black 1, then black has the next diagram. Diagram 18. Black can play the 9-point monkey jump in sente. This is big. Diagram 19, next page. White will often attach at 1 and draw back with 3 early in the endgame. These are good moves for strengthening his position on the side, and they also leave him the pleasure of clamping at A later. White can play A, black B, white C, black D in sente, and if he likes, he can keep on with E, etc., while black watches his territory disappear at a fast rate. If black plays 4 at F to prevent this, white 1 and 3 become sente. Diagram 20. Here's one final endgame position. White 1 is played partly, of course, to keep black from jumping in at the same point. But white is also aiming at 2, etc., which makes black expanding at 1 meaningless. If the latter is unfavorable, white can play a ladder block, then 2. Diagram 22. Black 1 seems lukewarm, but is the proper move, and furthermore it threatens a surprising invasion of the corner. Thickness and thinness, as exemplified by black 1 in this diagram, and the last, are also important in the endgame. The ideal move would be one that was thick, sente, and large in absolute value. Diagram 23. Given Sente with black, most players would probably play the sequence from 1 to 8, which is neither very clumsy nor very skillful. Diagram 24. The skillful move, provided it is backed up by reading, is the attachment at black 3. If white resists with 4 etc., black gets a painless ko and certain profit. Diagram 25. If white connects with 4, he has no good answer to black 5 and 7. If he plays 4 at 5 or 7, he loses to black A. If he plays 4 at A, black B means either a link up or a ko, either of which is fine for black. Black 3 is a beautifully contrived Tesuji. And there you have it, y'all. This brings us to the end of chapter 11 on Endgame, and very much so to the end of the book as well. You can see that there is an appendix, so to read further I really recommend you getting the book from Gisedo Publishing, or by any other means. Probably not by eBay or Amazon because it's ridiculously expensive there, but the appendix is chock full of information. It goes over the game between Kageyama and the Meijin of the time of Rinkaiho with a Komi of 4.5 points, so it's not exactly current. But the commentary you can see is very dense and very detailed, and with a full pro-game commentary basically. So I really recommend going over it. I myself have read it. I found it to be very, chock full of information. But we will not last make another video on it. So with that, this ends the coverage of Fundamentals of Go by Toshiro Kageyama. And for those of you who watched this far, thank you for watching, and who join on Twitch chat as well. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure reading this book with y'all. But yeah, this has been Lion Guy Sai. Come check us out live at twitch.tv/LionGuySai. And with that, I'll see you later, YouTube.